coming up.
The luxury and the monotony. Keeps her calm, keeps her happier than she otherwise would be.
Intensive care for the most vulnerable.
People are flocking here.
They're our guests, and that's how we treat them.
It's a success in Thailand.
What is it like here?
Fabulous.
So why can't it work in Australia?
The industry has been crying out for decades. Fix the problem.
And to give more help to people.
Hello, Lolly. I love you.
Like my mum. Hello and welcome back to our Extra Minutes podcast. I'm Dimity Clancey, and joining me today is the beautiful Natalie Clancy, one of our fantastic producers and also a very, very dear friend of mine. Today we're going to talk to you about a topic that is very close to my heart, dementia. I have a very personal story with dementia. My mum has had it for 10 years. So I've lived and breathed the dementia journey, and it's always a funny one when you do a story that is personal to you, because I think as the journalist you always like to take a step back from the story. But when something means so much to you and you have such an intricate knowledge with it and feelings and emotions about it, it can sometimes be a really hard thing to do, is to cover a story like that. So I was very thankful to have Natty next to me to do this story.
I was just going to say, Dim, why was it important for you to do this story? Or what made you want to tell the personal side of this story?
I think because for 10 years my family has been on this journey, and you feel really alone. And I just know from living with dementia and watching my mum deteriorate from it that there are so many people in my family's position. And I think the thing that has really got to me throughout the years is the lack of care, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that the number one, when you have a problem, you fix it, or when you have a medical condition, you take some medication. But for dementia, there is nothing of great significance right now that's available. And researchers are working really, really hard, but there was nothing I could do to give to my mum that could help her. And she's looked after me all my life, and I just wanted to help her, and I haven't been able to do that. So I think for me, I just grew more and more passionate about needing to publicly tell my story. And I didn't want to do it as a story to tell about just me, and we didn't. But it's a conversation that I think we all need to have, and governments and people that can make it better.
And who better to have that conversation or to start it than someone who is living it?
Yeah, look, and I guess it's always that thing as being a journalist, you never want to be the story, But I think from the reaction that we had, even before the story went to air, I had, hundreds of people emailing me, thanking me for sharing it. And you just feel like for a disease that is so prominent and has the worst predictions for how many people are going to have it in such a small amount of time, we should be talking about it. At the end of the day, I always say dementia is mental health, and we've never wanted to talk about mental health because there are times when you're watching your loved one who's got dementia where it is embarrassing, and they go through times where they do look a bit crazy. And it does get really embarrassing when you're out in public. So it's that mental health, again, card and topic that we never want to talk about.
I think too, though, by you being brave in telling your own story, it kind of made the conversation easier for people to have, because they could see someone in their position who was willing to do it, who was willing to talk about it, and not afraid to sort of show how you feel. And I think in the feedback, which I know was overwhelming, I think that's probably something that really came through, was it?
Yeah, and you hope that people could talk about it and share their story with other people, or ask for help, or know where to turn to help for help. Because as I said, it's just a journey you feel like you're the only person on, even though there are pamphlets around saying call dementia support, call this, but no one tells you what to say back to your loved one when they tell you a really outrageous thing to say. Like it's those little moments where you're just sitting at home and you just don't know how to deal with the way your loved one's acting. And you're not only dealing with what's in front of you, you're dealing with the fact that that's your mother or your loved one who is becoming such a different person to who they were.
And so, as you said, we've been friends for a really long time. I know you've often thought about whether you tell your personal story about dementia or not and how you do it to end up in the point where you are. What was it like on that day? I guess, we spend our lives going into people's lives for a day, and for us it's just another day at work. But for them it's the day 60 Minutes came and filmed with them. You became that person on that day. 60 Minutes was coming to your mum's nursing home to tell your story.
Well, I was in and I was out and I was in and I was out and I wasn't going to do it and now I'll do it and no, should I do it? No, and
On the day when you became that person, you were on the other side. How did you feel?
I think I felt okay because I think I had you there and I had my dad there.
And you were the one who was putting it together, so it was
well, I
be
know,
all right.
I knew I could write the words. No, but I think by that stage I had resolved to the fact that, we had the nuts and bolts of a good story to tell, and that the part that I was contributing in terms of my own personal story was to just share with the audience that I know because I'm on it. So I think it was, and the other thing also is when you're telling a dementia story, you're putting your loved one, and my mum can't sit up, she can't do anything for herself. She can barely speak now. She's very advanced in her dementia. You're putting your loved one in and exposing them and sharing them in that state to the nation and around the world.
That's what's brave of you and of your family.
I had big discussions with my father about whether that was an okay thing to do, given my mum wasn't ever going to be able to consent to it. But I know my mum, and Dad said to me one night, if it helps another family, then we should do it.
And you know now that it did.
It absolutely did. And I have no regrets. And I know my mum, and my mum is the most giving, beautiful person that was only ever, and she still is, about the greater good. She just can't communicate it. So I know that if I said to her, Mum, could you please, be a part of this story to help others, my mum wouldn't hesitate. And so I just had to trust my gut on that. And I think, the reaction reassured me that we did the right thing. And of course we gave Lolly, so my mum's name is Lolly, we gave Lolly a
Name's
beautiful...
Lorraine.
Well, she's Lorraine, but
she's
affectionately known as Lolly. But we got a hair and makeup artist in because my mum's hair was always beautifully perfect. She had her professional makeup on, and that was really, those sort of things are important. So I think she looked like a queen.
I do too. Yeah, absolutely. And I hope she felt like one. In moments, she certainly did.
But I will say, so the people that have, know what it's like with dementia. So my mum is at the point where you can get a beautiful smile and reaction out of her, but she will also then just start screaming. So that was all part of the morning. We'd be filming along.
She got quite hung up on the cameraman. Beautiful Mumsy, Mark Munro.
Who is just so divine. And, our whole crew pretty much had been affected by dementia. He had lost his father to dementia not long ago. So it was really special for them to work on it. But for some reason, Lolly did not like Munsey.
She's saying to Dimity, who is that?
I know she said, go away or something to him.
Who is it? Tell me, who is it?
But they were great, and the boys were excellent in terms of capturing it, because sometimes we just needed to chuck on some music, and Mum's song is "It's a Long Way to Tipperary." So as soon as we'd put that on and start singing, which I think featured in the story,
it did.
That would make Mum calm. Music is a big thing for Lolly, and so that made her very calm. But
I think too that, like, in terms of the storytelling of the broader picture about dementia. I know that what I hoped that we would get by going to see your mum was the feeling in the room. Like you talk about how she sometimes has reactions that might be embarrassing or that type of thing. But I think what came across was that the feeling that she's, you guys love her so much, she loves you. And I think that's probably what families connected with, because
I
that's
think
what every family would have in rooms like that. you know?
Well, it's presence, and I think that's what my mum still has the ability to do. She mightn't be able to at all tell you her name or even pronounce people's names these days, but mum can feel a presence of
She
her
can feel
family.
your presence.
She can feel it, absolutely. And so she knows when you're there, and maybe it's the sound of my voice, I don't know. But so that was, we got a couple of those. We carefully edited it, let's be clear. Like we left out the bits that
That's
Lolly
our
would
job.
never have had in there. But it was important, I think, to show, what you said in terms of capturing her, the love she gives off. I think we captured beautifully. So, and she'd be proud of that.
And the fact that even when someone has such advanced dementia, that type of thing can still be strong, you know, and that your family.
Well, you cling on to that.
You cling on to
That's
Yeah.
exactly what you cling on to. But, we're in my mum, luckily, and through lots of research and we're lucky to have mum in in a good home. We don't have many problems with her at home, but there are still realities of nursing homes. And this was a big part of the story, and the centre of the story is that, okay, well, we can't give our loved ones we can't fix them with medication. So how do we fix them with care? And when you look at the care that's available, yes, my mum is in a nice home, and we've gotten to know her carers very, very well. So and my dad goes every single day to her. So but not everyone can do that. And so we know that when we leave mum in that home, that my mum is sitting in a room, either in a chair or in a bed, and sitting there by herself. And that is a really hard thing to accept, but that is as good as it gets in Australia.
As good as it gets here.
It's as good as it gets in Australia. And so it was really, I just wished when we went to Thailand, so we went over to Thailand to a resort, Vivo Bene it was called, and I just wished I'd found it 8 years ago, because I would have packed up our lives and said, well, for the next 8 years we're going to go and live over there.
And why?
Because it's like you didn't have to worry, and because mum would have a carer with her pretty much round the clock if we wanted, and you're living in a resort. It's like a resort for people with dementia and old people. It was fabulous.
It was fabulous.
As you heard, it was fabulous.
Yes, that's right. As the residents all told you, sitting around the pool with their mocktails, it was fabulous.
But it's just that for families is priceless. That level of care, and we just can't offer that here in Australia. There's nothing that is available. Or to have a carer come to your home 23, 24, however many you want, hours a day, would not, like, I couldn't afford it. No one, like, you can hardly afford it. Very few people would be able to afford that. So you're left with having to leave your already vulnerable loved one in a home, and there's nothing that you can offer them. And I just think everyone would agree we have to do better about it. You don't get to that age to then be treated like that. Like, you work hard and you live your life, and in my mum, like, she raised a beautiful family, and I hate that we have to leave her in care, but there is just no way we could have her at home. And I'm not the only family. Like, there are many families out there like mine.
I suppose you came into this knowing much more about dementia than most other people, unless they've lived it like you. But were there things you learnt or you picked up or observed that you hadn't sort of known before?
Well, I'm always looking to see, about the research and medications and things. So when we met Professor Bryce, I was like, it was warming for me to hear that they were somewhat closer, and whether that's him just being optimistic, but he was saying between 5 and 7 years they're hoping to have a medication that will help to slow the growth of the protein that causes the deterioration of the brain. So I learning that research and how Australia is actually leading the way, in essence, when it comes to dementia research in the world. So I think you just want to have something for the future,
And that was important, right, in going into this story, that it's so sad and it's often so hard to talk about, but you need to have some kind of hope, and some kind of message that in an awful situation can make you feel good about something.
And you hope that some of the hope that we gave in that story was the ability for people to speak up and share their story and to talk. And because that simple cup of tea and a conversation with someone who could say, hey, I know what you're going through, could make all the difference to someone's journey. And I think, everybody deserves to be able to become unwell and get the help that they need. And I think with dementia right now, especially in Australia and also around the world, it's not good enough.
Especially for someone like your mum who's spent her life helping other people.
I shouldn't have a mum suffering. My mum shouldn't be suffering a terminal illness for a decade, and the best Western medicine can offer her is an antidepressant. And that antidepressant isn't to help my mum or treat my mum's dementia. That antidepressant is to keep my mum calm, to make it better for the people around her and for her loved ones, so that we're not dealing with her swinging at my dad or yelling and screaming at us. So it's not actually medication for her. It's actually medication to help the rest of us.
And that's something we noticed in Thailand that was really different, that their reliance on medication over there was much, much lower than in nursing homes in Australia.
Because people with dementia need time. You have to enter their world. If they want to say something to you, you go along with it. Or if they need 10 minutes for you to put their shoes on, then you take 10 minutes. And that's what those carers, those beautiful carers in Thailand do. They live on their watch, not on the carer's watch. And that's what happens in Australia. And I often say that it makes it also better for the loved ones, Teresa and James. Beautiful James could go and have days away and not have to worry about his wife. Like, respite for the carers of people with dementia is more important than any medication or care that you can give, because the carers have to be good. Dementia is a disease that attacks the loved ones more than it attacks the person living with it. So that level, that model of care in Thailand actually allows the loved ones to have a life as well. Because when you're dealing and caring for someone, you don't have a life. Caring for someone with dementia is a full-time, round-the-clock job. It would be wonderful to have Vivo Benes everywhere around Australia, or just that model of care where time, the best gift, and my mum said the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time. And right now my mum needs all the time in the world. And we value the time that we have left with her, because she's, as I said, very advanced in her dementia, and we're tired. We're tired of, caring for her. We'd care for her forever if we could, but the way it is and what you're limited with when it comes to trying to help someone who's unwell with dementia has a huge toll on families too.
Absolutely. And I think too, now a few months on, looking back, like as a colleague and as a friend, I felt so proud of how you handled telling your own story in a sense. And I know you were nervous about doing it. So now that it's done, how glad are you that you did it?
I'm very glad, and I think that that's not the last story we do on dementia. I think there's plenty more. We need to keep pushing for people to invest, the government to invest in money, changing attitudes, changing mindsets about people with dementia and the attitudes towards their loved ones who are caring for them. I think there's a lot of improvement. So I think our job's not done as journalists to highlight what needs to be done when it comes to this disease.
And I think that was a really nice outcome of the story, that it showed a topic that people think is too hard to talk about, that people are actually desperate to talk about. And we saw that from the response.
Well, that's the whole point of our job, right?
Yeah.
Well, Natalie, thank
well
you.
Done.
Thank you. I didn't cry. I'm very proud of myself. But you can watch our story on dementia on the 60 Minutes Australia YouTube page and also 9 Now. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again.